You're listening to The Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. You are helping an agency with marketing and lead generation, and you see gaps in the sales process. Hello, this is Paul Higgins, and welcome to episode 544 of The Paul Higgins Show. In this podcast, I talk to Jason about building a sales process to help your clients fill that gap, and also you'll learn some important things for your own backyard. Jason Kramer is the founder of Cultivize, a consulting firm that specializes in B2B lead nurturing strategies and technologies. With 15 years of experience running his own creative agency, Jason identified revenue gaps in marketing and sales funnel for distributors, service providers, marketing agencies, and manufacturers, including renowned brands like Virgin Atlantic Airways and Johnny Walker. He launched Cultivize to provide customized solutions and empower businesses to connect prospects with customer data and marketing campaigns. And he also loves working with sales teams and improving their activities. Over now to Jason Kramer from cultivize.com. Great to have you here, Jason.
Hey, Paul. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, look, I know we connected a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you were very hot to trot on one particular platform, which we'll cover. But as the podcast goes through, I know that you've become a little more agnostic, but still in a similar space. And I wanted to bring you in to talk about that more. But why don't we kick off with who your ideal client is and what problems you love to solve for them?
Absolutely, Paul. Ideal clients are businesses that are selling something that is a little bit more expensive. We're not working with boutique floral arrangement places. We're looking for companies that have a long sales process, are selling something that takes a little bit longer, more communication to sell. Ideally, they're also spending money on marketing or something to generate leads to fill the pipeline. And thirdly, they have a sales team. Generally our companies that we work with have a team of about 2 to 20 people. And if they have all three of those things, they usually have sales pipeline leakage. They usually have inefficiencies in their process to nurture leads and to educate leads through that sales process. And those would be our ideal fit.
What do you mean by education? What are they lacking in that regard?
So they're lacking mostly communication. So what we find is a lot of times organizations, they have a sales staff, they hire new salespeople, but they're not giving them the tools they need to succeed. So the salesperson is responsible for writing mostly very poor emails to try to influence that person. It's all about features and benefits rather than focusing on the problems that they've identified or where they can bring value. If you're not able to educate and inform a person that's looking to make a decision, and all you're saying is, hey, we got the best features, we got the best price, we got this, and that, you're really not saying you solve anything. You're just trying to basically, list a whole bunch of things that everybody else is trying to list. That's what I mean by communication. They're not effectively communicating how they can actually bring value to the prospect.
Yeah. And how's AI helped with writing of those poor emails?
I'd say it helped either maybe good or bad, depending on who's using the AI tool. AI certainly helps, but it's not going to replace what the human person can write. And when it comes to sales, especially in these larger purchases or a longer sales process, AI can't speak like you and I can speak, right? It's not going to know our tonality. So if I'm on the phone with you talking, or I've left you some voicemail messages, or I've reached out on LinkedIn, and now all of a sudden a series of emails goes out that sounds nothing like me, they're going to kind of know it's not authentic. AI is good, but it has to be used with a little bit of care and consideration.
Yeah, I totally agree. And look, I've tried lots of dedicated sales tools that say, we'll reply on your behalf from AI. And, I think the comments can be okay. When they read a post and leave a comment, I think that's of value. But when they read someone's profile and then try to reply, I think, it's not there at the moment. I'm not saying that it never will, but it's certainly, you can smell it a mile away when it's written purely by AI. And how many times you try to get it to be more concise, it still seems to pop words in there that you and I wouldn't use in our normal language, like you said. So I get it. You spoke about when you go in and look at this, how many times are you bringing in a new tool, a new sales CRM versus helping them build better functionality out of what they've already got?
That's a great question. So it really changes from client to client. I would say most businesses we work with have either some type of ERP or some type of system that they're using to what I'll call run their business. So it may not necessarily be accounting, but it might be a system they're using for quoting or for invoicing or for some other component that's necessary and vital, but it's not helping them with all the other pieces, right? And so having a system, a tool like we can provide, which connects the dots between the marketing activities and the sales activities with every other system they have is really vital. And most oftenly, what we also know, and you've seen this, Paul, and I'm sure everybody listening, software these days, specifically business software, is so widely available and in some cases relatively inexpensive that we've seen companies spending thousands of dollars a month for one or more pieces of software they're not even using, right?
Yes.
Because they thought it can solve a problem. And the one thing I always like to say, Paul, is that it takes a skillful person in a team to solve a problem, not a piece of software. What we often see is that, and as we enter these conversations with businesses, they have a tech stack of many or dozens of pieces of software that are either not doing what they should be doing or they're doing the exact same thing, right? So you might have somebody having three different CRMs installed, and you're like, well, why do you have three CRMs? You only need one. But they don't realize that there's this overlap and they don't realize capability differentiation. So it really varies, but that's really what we help clients figure out is what do they need from a technology perspective.
Yeah, great. Are you selling in at owner level and then bringing it down, or are you selling into the salespeople direct and then taking it up? How does it sort of work with you around, first getting the client before we
Right.
talk about the change management?
Our clients fall into two buckets. So I would say they fall into mid-market where
Yeah.
they're going to have CMOs or VPs of sales that recognize there's this problem with the way that the sales team is operating or the inefficiencies of reporting and the lack of reporting. So they need a tool, they need a partner to help fix these things. They already have the approval to work with a company like Cultivize. Generally, with those organizations, we don't even meet the CEOs or the founders of the company because quite frankly, they're just too big of organizations, right? And we just deal with marketing and sales.
Yes.
Conversely, on a smaller size business, which I would define as a company in, let's say, the 2 to maybe 10 million, $15 million range, generally there, yes, we're talking to the owner of the company who we're starting that conversation with because they really see the pain point firsthand, or it's their team under them, which is generally usually a small team of under 10 that's saying, hey, like we are just overworked, like we need help, and what they don't realize is that it's more cost effective sometimes to bring in the right software than spending another $100,000 in salary to hire extra people.
Great. So as a rough mix, what would the mix be between those two buckets?
The mux would be, I would say, probably about like 25% in the smaller size organizations we work with, and then the balance being in the larger outfits.
And you go in and help people improve their sales process. What are some of the key themes that you see improving that? I know you've mentioned a couple already, but just sort of bucket up. What are the key themes that you help people build when it comes to their sales process?
First thing is having visibility to the pipeline, I think is really important. Like I said before, many organizations are spending money on marketing or lead gen. They're doing webinars, they're going to trade shows now that they're back. They're doing anything they can do, right, that makes sense or what they think makes sense to generate interest in their business. What we often see is that the salesperson themselves and the sales managers don't have visibility to know what Jason and Paul are working on at any given moment and where they're at in the sales process. So I think visual dashboards to help understand the pipeline and to be able to have accurate data there, which is really important as well, to be able to pull out reports to say, what do we expect to close this month? Are we going to hit our goals? Where are deals falling short? Where are they stalling out? That's number one. Number two is a follow-up process. We find that most, I don't want to generalize it, I just say most, but many salespeople are chasing the deal that's going to close right away. What they often forget about are the deals that take longer to close. What happens is that if you or I were looking to make a big purchase for our company, we're eventually going to probably buy that service or product. It's just a matter of when. You as the salesperson is not continually in front of that prospect having a conversation. When they're ready to buy, they're probably going to buy from a competitor. The most important thing is to be able to nurture it and to stay in front of those people. And sometimes it's just reminders we could automate to, hey, call Jason, it's been a few months, or an automated email that's just a gentle nudge. Hey, Jason, we're just following up on the conversation we had a few months ago. How can we help you, et cetera, et cetera. There's all different nuances to it, but those are the main two factors that we find to be successful.
Fantastic. And just a reminder, you listen to Jason Kramer, and all the links, etc., will be in the show notes that Jason mentions now. And I know he's going to mention some at the end. On the dashboards, how much interpretation are you doing? So in other words, how much tech setup are you doing versus how much are you actually helping them interpret those dashboards, set up the dashboards and then interpret it, i.e. how much technology versus consulting you're doing in that space?
Right. Well, the great thing about the platform that a couple of the platforms we use are very visual and very friendly and easy to interpret. So it's not like something as complex maybe as Google Analytics, which is an amazing platform. It's got tons of data, but you really need to know what you're looking for and where to find it in order to kind of get insight out of it. That's a little bit different than what we do. What we do is we just say, very simple visual graphics with pie charts, et cetera. This is how many leads came in from these different marketing channels. This is how many, the average form submissions per day. These are the highest rated emails that have the most engagement, right? And this is what your sales team is doing on an individual member performance. How many calls are they making? How many emails are they sending? And so all these things are not difficult. We don't need to sit there and explain each dashboard to them. They're built in such a way that they can interpret them by themselves, and we could even automate it, right? So no one, I just say nobody, but a lot of people don't have the time to go find these dashboards. So we automate the process to send the dashboards to the appropriate team members, whether it be weekly, monthly, quarterly, et cetera, so they have access to that information and when they need it.
And I know that certainly when I worked at Coca-Cola, there was, we had too much information. So, it just paralyzed decision-making at some points because you had so many data points. Like, how do you go with helping your clients know which metrics are the most important to follow versus having lots of dashboards?
Well, it's three famous letters that not everybody always follows, but you know what they are, right? KPIs, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
it's what are we looking for as indicators to know that what we're trying to achieve is reaching our goals. And so, yes, you may not care about how many visits to your website or how many form conversions or what the email open rate is. None of that may matter at all. It may just matter of we need to hit this particular revenue goal, or we need to get this number of leads in per month. So we help clients identify those goals and figure out what KPIs and what dashboards we need to deliver that information. Because too much information, you're right, is also a hindrance, and it could bog down what's really important.
Yeah, fantastic. So that was the first one, was pipeline visibility. The next one is a follow-up process, which is, a favorite of mine. And your angle was around that we've all heard the stat of roughly 3% of people are ready to buy at any one time.
Sure.
And then, what are you doing to nurture the 97? So what are some of the things that you've seen work really well in that nurturing phase?
There's a couple of things. So one thing that we've been testing since probably about December of last year is shortening up and making our emails even more personalized than we had in the past. And so one thing we've been testing, which has worked really well, is keeping our email follow-up under 75 words. That's right, 75 words. It's really short, but it forces you to be concise. So in addition to that, we've been personalizing subject message with not just perhaps the first name or the company name, but maybe things related to the industry or to their title. Inside the email itself, we're making personalization and reference to things about the company. And we're able to do that because we're pulling all this data into the CRM, which automatically dynamically updates these emails and changes them. The second thing that's really important is it's not just email. There has to be outbound phone calls. In my opinion, of course, there also has to be outreach on LinkedIn or whatever social platform might make sense. Now, granted, Paul, all the organizations we work with, 98% of them are B2B. So LinkedIn is the perfect supplement to that. But when you factor in all those different ways beyond just sending a carrier pigeon or a smoke signal, right? But you're touching somebody in multiple points, have them on your newsletter subscription list, perhaps if they're on like a long sales cycle. But the point is you're touching them at different points in different modalities, which is getting them to engage and to respond to you differently. The last thing that we've seen really effective is text messaging. I know in the B2B world, some people frown upon it. My opinion is if you have some type of even very small relationship with this person, you've spoke with them at least once, they've responded to at least one email, and you have their cell, I personally think it's perfectly fine to text them. And guess what? We all have our phone with us. So if you text somebody, you're almost always going to get a response, whether it's positive or negative, at least you'll get that response, right? Which every salesperson wants. Give me a yes or give me a no. So I think if you do all those things and you incorporate those different channels, you're going to start seeing more results.
And just a reminder, that's, a generic, generic statement, because there are countries that have got very strict SMS
Granted,
laws,
correct.
and just make sure you're applying those in the country that you're listening to. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So back on to modes. So, have you seen any success versus, in the email itself, whether you're using video or not? Like, is video, does it work, not work? What's been your experience using video?
I haven't seen much success with it. I mean, we've tried a lot of different platforms out there. And right now, on email, I wouldn't say it's good. However, I will say I've been experimenting the last few months with LinkedIn video, which I've been found very effective. And for those that haven't tried it yet, it only works with the LinkedIn app on your mobile device. Again, it might change from country to country. I know in the US, I'm in New York, no issue using it, but it's been a really great tool to get people just to engage, be personable, share your own, kind of, fun, quirky things. I'll often be walking the dog in the morning before I come to work, and I'll send some people some videos. Hey, I'm just walking the dog, want to say hello, and and whatever the message is. So that's something that I would definitely recommend trying if you haven't tried it yet.
Great. And can you upload videos as well, or is it only going to be live capture?
Only live capture.
Okay.
So you got to be a little quick on your feet, but but you do have the opportunity to review it before you hit send, so that's good. So if you are making a fool of yourself or you didn't like it, you could always hit delete and re-record.
Yeah, and I know that most CRMs now track email open rates. Like, how accurate is if someone's opened it? Like, how do you know whether it's gone into spam that's opened, or tell us a little bit about that email deliverability, which aids if you know that they've read it. Obviously, it's a perfect chance to go and follow up.
Of course.
How does that sort of work?
So, Google and Yahoo, kind of wreaked havoc last couple of years on the changes they've made. And Apple was really the start of all of this, right? So a couple of years ago, right, Apple said, okay, well, no matter what platform sends an email out, we're going to mark it as open. So deciphering between what's a real open and a real click versus what we call a bot or a machine click or a machine open is difficult. There's no doubt about that on any platform. The way that we work around that is a couple of ways. One, for our clients, we have links in our email that are designed to be hidden. So if somebody clicks that link, we know it's not a real person clicking it because you wouldn't even see it to the naked eye, right? So that's one trick and technique that tends to work well. But absolutely, if you have a system that is allowing you to track who's going to your website and letting you see who's going to which specific pages and when they come back to your website, that's widely effective, because you and I both know if someone's coming there, they're coming there for a reason, and you should definitely be using that information.
Yeah, fantastic. And at the start, I mentioned that you were once on one platform, and I'll put my name out there that we were once Podio partners, and we drank the Kool-Aid and thought anybody and every situation should be Podio, right? And then we went
Right.
agnostic. I know that you've now gone more agnostic. It's not the tool that you're selling, it's the sales process improvement that you're selling. Why did you make that change, or what led to making that change?
Sure. So we do still focus on a couple of platforms that we've, looked at a lot of them, and for many reasons, we've gravitated towards two specific platforms built specifically for the types of businesses we talked about today. That aside, what we found is that on the consulting side, a lot of organizations need help figuring out if the technology they have is the right technology or where to go. So what we often are finding is a lot of conversations we're having today, Paul, is advising to say, okay, you know what we offer as a solution isn't the right fit, but this other particular product is a good fit for you. So we're being more of the teacher, I would say, right, than the instructor and saying, here's how you use it versus here's where you should go.
And how do you keep up with the volume of CRMs and the functionality? How do you keep up with that?
It's almost impossible,
Yeah.
to be honest. What I look more for is, well, this is the thing, right? So there's more and more software coming out, every year. But a lot of the software that's coming out, and as you know, and the listeners, I know they're in various different software providers themselves. A lot of software is designed to solve a specific problem. What I don't see coming out as often is like a brand new Salesforce, a brand new HubSpot, a brand new Marketo, right? Or Eloqua, or what name, keep going on for another 20 names. Those types of systems are not rolling out every year. I mean, they're just too expansive, and they're very robust, and they take a long time to build, right? And to deploy and to fine tune. And that's the world we live in, is those more robust platforms that can do a lot of different things that are not just a glorified address book.
Yeah, and like you said, I think, everyone's talking about it at the moment, and you mentioned it, that there's a bit of a bloat out there, and people are probably, removing the pieces that they bought in COVID when everything was cheaper, and now going back to the core. And, typically when the economy's difficult or tight, that's what people do anyway, right? I think,
Yeah.
there's certainly a lot more people that are removing rather than adding new ones at the moment. So it makes sense to be able to do both. The other thing we will now, switch gears a little and talk a bit about your business models. I know that you have implemented a way of supporting and coaching people ongoing, not just at the doing the initial project and then
Mhm.
waving goodbye. Tell us a little bit about what led to that change and how you're doing it.
Sure. Biggest thing with any software is the usage of that software. And if there's no usage, then you're going to have a high churn rate. And people are just going to stop using the software, stop paying for it. What we discovered and started doing, I shouldn't even say discovered, but what we started trying about 5 years ago was to start being more of a coach and an ongoing consultant to our clients. So what we found to be really successful is holding monthly strategy slash coaching calls, generally with the marketing team and sales team at every client we have. And these are private Zoom calls where we discuss specific challenges they might be having, or they might be saying, hey, we're going to start doing some webinars in a couple of months. We've never done it before. How can we leverage the CRM to kind of help us before the webinar and post webinar, communication and marketing and all these different things. And what we also learned from that, Paul, is it gives the opportunity to also upsell and cross sell, right? So we say, oh, well, this is why you should have a chatbot on your website and you don't have one yet. Guess what? The CRM can do that. If you need help building it out, we can help you build it out, right? And develop the strategy and the content for it. So they're showing how Cultivize can continually support their growth. And the way that I like to say it to clients is we want to constantly push the needle. We're not designing a direct mail piece or a brochure or a logo. We're building something that is constantly going to evolve and adapt and change as their business and the industry changes. So for companies out there thinking they can just set up a CRM today and touch nothing and do nothing to change nothing for the next 3 years, they're going to definitely fall short, and not accomplish what they could have accomplished if they're constantly tweaking and adjusting it to meet their demanding needs.
Right. And are you selling that offer the start, or are you selling it after the initial project?
Oh, right at the start. So the value add that we provide is that we are not a direct software. So the software that we help clients with, we did not build. We're a authorized certified reseller. And we do that because if they were to buy software directly, any software directly, you've never used that software. So whether it be, something complex or simple, even if it's simple, you still may not be using it correctly. And so now you have to go hire a consultant that knows the software, and they have to help you, which could get expensive. So the value we do in the very beginning conversation is you're getting the software from us, you're getting us as a consultant, us as the implementer, and us as your support team. So it's really a white glove, one-stop solution to help them with those challenges and those
Right.
goals.
And is that based on a monthly retainer for the consulting piece?
It's built into our pricing. So our clients either pay us monthly, or a lot of clients actually pay us upfront for the year. And for that, we kind of give them some, advantages and to do that.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned two pieces of software that you do support more than any others. What I'm sure you're listening to Jason saying, I'd love to know what that is. So well, let's unveil it. What are the two that you do use?
Sure. So the first one is HubSpot. And whether it be moving into HubSpot from another system, migrating off of HubSpot, you need help with that, or just hey, I want to stay with HubSpot, which is really not getting value out of it, or we don't know which piece of the component we need, the software we need. We can help figure that out for you. And the other one is called Sharp Spring, which had been around for about 20 years. They just got bought by Constant Contact 2 years ago. So now it's called Constant Contact Lead Gen CRM. And so those are the two platforms that we find are bring the most value for what you would be getting, as compared to other things that are out there in the marketplace.
And they're obviously asleep at the wheel when they rebranded that one. It's
Yes, I agree.
fantastic. Well, what we're going to do is just take a brief pause to thank our sponsors, and more importantly, get our sponsors to give you some fantastic offers, and then we'll come back for the rapid fire with Jason. Running a tech consulting business can feel like a solo journey, but what if you didn't have to navigate it alone? Introducing the Tech Collective, your go-to resource for tackling those burning questions and unlocking your potential. Join a dynamic collective of experienced tech consultants ready to share insights, strategies, and support to help you today. Grappling with sales, client, or team challenges, the Tech Collective has your back. Join us today at paulhigginsmentoring.com/TC. We'll help you work smarter, not harder, to achieve your business goals. Just visit paulhigginsmentoring.com/TC. So Jason, great to have you back. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions to get rapid responses. Are you ready for that?
Let's go for it. Ready.
All right, brilliant. So the first one is, what are some of the daily habits you do to drive the growth of Cultivize.com?
Really fast. I mean, I'm constantly looking at, we talked everything about today, right? Looking at who's coming to our website, who's engaging in the content we're putting out there, being active on social media, and really connecting with people in real time is my daily habit. I spend probably 1 to 2 hours or more a day doing that.
Fantastic. And the next one is, where do you go to learn more about how to grow Cultivize?
So where do I go? Like the inspiration. So podcasts, like we'll listen today. And I know that, we've known each other for a while through that channel, but listening to podcasts. I used to be an avid reader. I find myself not having as much time to read as much. Really podcasts and just industry news and other things of that such.
Fantastic. If we could grant you one wish for Cultivize, what would that be?
Ooh, one wish. I think the wish would be, that's a good one. Well, how about this? I think the wish would be to have a steady growth of quality leads. I think the one thing that, every business is trying to achieve is to have meaningful conversations. So it's not just about lead gen, but it's bringing in quality leads. And so we're working really hard to bring in the right type of people so we can have genuine conversations with them. Not to say we won't talk to anyone, but would be the time for us both, most well spent.
Yeah, great. And last one is, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you first started Cultivize?
Oh, well, I think the one thing is recognizing that every client certainly is unique and has their own pain points, but being able to pull out the information we need out of clients that we can do very effectively today. It's taken us a few years to kind of figure out the right types of questions to ask and define our process of how we do things. So I think having that process 5 years ago would have definitely ramped things up for us for sure.
Fantastic. Well, we've been listening to Jason Kramer, episode 541. And Jason, as I said, in the middle of the episode, has got some great things to help you build your sales process, no matter what platform you're selling and no matter what consulting that you're doing. So first, you can always go to cultivize.com. So the link will be in the show notes. The other is afterthelead.com. And he's got a fantastic playbook, a 14-page playbook on how do you nurture your leads. So he gives away all his secrets in that playbook. So go to that. It's afterthelead.com. We'll have the link in the show notes. And also you can go and find out more about Jason on LinkedIn with his socials, what he's posting. is Jason Lee, Leigh, Lee Kramer. And Jason, awesome to catch up with you again. But the most important thing is that we shared this with a lot more people this time. So thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom today.
Absolutely, Paul. I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
That was a great interview with Jason. He gave a lot of practical tips, and I'm sure you got your money's worth with this episode. Also, don't forget to get afterthelead.com, where you can get that playbook. And what I didn't mention is you can also get email deliverability, a free diagnostic, which is fantastic. It is for marketing automation tools, something that we don't do often enough with our newsletters, making sure that they are delivered. Reach out to Jason on LinkedIn. I mentioned in the show, and I also will have it in the show notes, and so that you heard him on the show, and also ask him some questions. If you have some peers that you know need someone like Jason to support them, please share it with them. Or you know someone that needs to improve their own sales process, please share it with them, because that's how we grow, is through you sharing it with your peers and your friends in the ecosystem. Check out our solo shows, and I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.